Welcome back to the studio. I'm Eric C. Jackson. Today we are going to look at mostly the series of quarantine and just my thoughts behind it and what it looked like before my photo editing. But I also at first want to share some news with you guys about more news than what I shared a few days ago about my progress with the art galleries I'm partnering with. So let me get into that, get the right page here. All right, here we go. So this is, there we go. Artbox.project Palma 2.0. I have mentioned Artbox before and talked about it a little bit in previous podcasts where I worked with them. The first time was in 2016, and that was my first major having my work physically shown in a major art fair. So went through the competition. I was one of the 3 finalists for that particular one, and I believe that was Artbox's first major art fair as well. So they were still pretty new, but you fast forward eight years later, they have been to several, like multiple art fairs, major art fairs around the world actually. And this one is going to be in Palma, Spain for the second year in a row. Now, last year, I didn't even enter, I didn't participate. And this year, I just made the deadline, which was yesterday, in getting the artwork submitted. I did get an email from them this morning telling me that my work has been accepted, and my work will be there. This one is from December 5th to December 18th, 2024. So that's going to be in Spain. Now, I'm going to go over the details here about it. Like I said, the registration deadline was yesterday. So here's the thing. The winner of the Artists in Residence program will be announced on November 5th. The selected artist will have the opportunity to work on his or her own work for a week in the renowned Casa del Arte Gallery. During this time, he or she will have a fully equipped studio at his or her disposal. Let's see, there will also be an opportunity to exhibit his or her own artwork in the gallery. The exact dates in 2025 will be determined in consultation with the winner. In addition, the gallery will cover the cost of the round trip to Palma and accommodation. Artistic materials will also be provided. Now, for someone like me, I'm bringing my camera. I'm bringing as much, even if it's like some studio lighting, my bag of studio lights. But if they already have them, then basically I would just bring my camera bag. The finalists and semi-finalists will be announced on November 5th. 10 finalists will be chosen, 20 semi-finalists also selected. The original artworks of the 10 finalists will be shown in Casa del Arte. So physically, if you're one of the 10 finalists, you would have your work printed out on paper or whatever medium you're using, and sent it. You'll send it through the mail to the gallery. All transport costs of the finalist artworks to Palma, Spain and back are paid for, which is great because shipping is expensive, including the insurance. And then if you're shipping from out of the country, there's also customs fees. Next, we had the 20 semifinalists will be featured in the Art Book 2024, which I'm not familiar with, which will be shown in various galleries and available in every bookstore via ISBN number. So that's great. So that's for the 20 semifinalists to get your work out there. And next, all participants, not just the semifinalists and finalists, will be shown on 2 large 85-inch 4K screens. The screens are integrated into the exhibition. So it's the same feel as what I showed you guys a few days ago with the you'll have physical art pieces, and then you'll have the screens, these bigger screens in the midst of those, which will show a slideshow of the work digitally. The participation fee was €47. The art party will take place on December 14th. So there's that. And then there's more information. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. I don't know if I am gonna be a finalist or semifinalist or a winner, but as I said before, here are some photos. Let me just move my camera out of the way. So here's some interior photos of the gallery. And obviously, I've never been to Spain. I've never been out of the U.S., but my work, I sent work to the United Kingdom, Switzerland. This time, if I have to ship it physically, this one will be in Spain. So my work at least is getting, it's going far beyond where I've been myself. But yeah, so you can see there the screen there. And I think the one that they're going to have, they said it's going to be 85 inches. That's well over 6 feet. Very nice up and down stairs. 2 floors. Really nice. So as I was saying last week, my goal is to have the studio be successful enough where I'll be able to travel to wherever my work is going, because the international audience, or I should say the audience that's overseas, they've been more receptive to my work. I still have to look at, the style. The style of the galleries are different, are very unique. And if your work doesn't fit the style, even though your work can be good, they won't, accept your work into the gallery, because they want, all the works obviously are going to be different, but they want the style to be consistent, have some consistency to it. So if you do get accepted, but maybe not right away, they'll try to pair you with other artists where your style fits with theirs a little bit better. And yeah, they'll schedule into something either later on in the year or even the following year. So there's that. All right, so that's my news that I have. Okay, so as for the website, I'm looking into updating all of the images here. Let me get rid of the bookmark. Okay. All right, so today I'm going to talk about quarantine and how this series kind of took shape. I will say at first, there's a huge difference between commercial photography and fine art photography to me, because with commercial, everything is very, for the most part, everything's very straightforward, very direct. You rarely have like a promotion that's abstract, or it's hard to tell what the product is. So, I mean, for example, I can give you my own profile photograph where this could be like a marketing material for Nike glasses, which I love these, by the way. These are my favorite pair that I've ever had. But you have to, when you're working in with clients in the commercial field, you have to just show the product. The product has to be prominent um, in the photograph because that's what they're trying to sell. So if I was doing something for glasses for Nike, which I've seen promos in stores and stuff like that, then this is something that I would use or submit to them and say, would you want to use this, right? Which is not what I am doing with this one, but I'm just giving an example. It's very straightforward in terms of presentation. You just get to the point. There's no, because everybody's attention span's short. So you're just right there to the point, you know. Quarantine is definitely the opposite. And I think, especially when I first started with fine art photography, I was thinking, like, how is my work going to be different? Because I was making that transition from, okay, I moved to Las Vegas for 2 years and I tried my hand at commercial photography, event photography, and I just didn't fit in that branch of the industry. And even when I was going on interviews for becoming a wedding photographer for a corporation, right, for a business, they looked at my portfolio and said, your work looks like it's more of an artistic style, like it belongs in a gallery. And so that's what gave me an idea to try fine art photography. And that's how I got to where I am right now. You know what? I will say that you can do both because I've jumped back and forth. But ultimately, I ended up sticking with just fine art photography, and I don't take wedding or portraits or anything like that because it just takes up a lot of time. It's a lot of time, and I just don't like that type of work, especially when it goes into beauty, fashion, where everything is really meticulous and you really have to feature their merchandise just on point. Um, yeah, and it's stressful. It's stressful. So I'm like, yeah, the fine art is better for me. And then I was thinking too that competition is really high. And so in order for me to win a certain contract or get a certain project, I would be going up against these guys who have been, you know, doing all this stuff for years, and they have their whole studio set up. Their creativity was a lot better than mine. And so, yeah, I ended up gradually getting to where I am right now with fine art. Now, let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. I want to show what it looked like originally. Let's see here. This is my files. Sorry, I'm dealing with two different screens over here. Okay, there we go. Okay. And let's go with icons. So yeah, this is where everything started. Now, one idea that I had was just to keep this in black and white and just say, okay, play on light and shadow and have that be the entire series. But it just looks too bland to me. So I wanted to really liven it up. And that's why I ended up putting color into it. Really, I really did want to liven it up, for sure. But let's see if I think I have. Let me see if I can pull this up here where I started. So this is a lot closer to commercial because I'm actually showing the object that I'm photographing. It's not exactly crystal clear on what this is, but I know what it is, right? And so this is where I think this is the first shot that I took, and I was just wondering how I could photograph it in a more interesting way than just saying, here's this object sitting on a desk and there's nothing else really to it. And of course, at this point, it was May 2020 that I was photographing this. And so I was working from home. We couldn't go into the office for months, I think, a couple months, 2, 3 months. So I was getting a little like I wanted to go out. I wanted to go outside. It was crazy. But I started looking at around the space where I was in, what could I photograph? What could I try or test out, experiment with? And so this was actually a Christmas present from my brother-in-law. So I was like, let me see what this looks like in pretty decent lighting. And I was just using the light next to the window. I didn't have studio lights or anything set up. But that's what it is. It's just those, those, I don't know what you call them, like the beads that sit on the desk and they just go back and forth. The marbles at the bottom. That's what this is. And so I I photographed it in, like I said, various, ways. Um and then as I continued on, I was like, okay, can I change the composition? Can I throw off, a person's perception of what they're looking at? And then if that's the case, how much can I skew reality and still get a good photograph? And so ultimately, I got to something like this where it's just a really fuzzy pattern. And the only thing I really did is I slowed down my shutter speed by quite a bit. It can be 2 seconds, 3 seconds where your shutter is open. and then you're moving the camera not like haphazardly, but trying to just gauge what the camera is going to capture if you move it to the left, up, down, rotating the camera. How fast can you rotate the camera? How many seconds do you need to do this motion and still capture what you want? And so it's just finding that sweet spot of how slow should the shutter speed be, and how much movement should I make, and then in which direction should I make that movement to get, a pretty decent photograph. And so I kept testing it out to see what I would get. Um, and I'm gonna try this again, hopefully before the year is out. But I have a different subject. I have a different subject in mind of what I want to capture. And then I think it's going to be in color, but the color is going to be um, more natural. Like I'm not going to have to add color as much as I did with quarantine, and then I'll see how it looks. So the only thing I was doing is looking for a composition, because even though it's abstract, I feel like you still need some semblance of a subject. Like something has to be predominant in the abstraction for your eye to be drawn to first, right? So I always put the my photographs as far as composition in a hierarchy. What catches the viewer's attention first, second, and then third. And so that's what I was looking for. If it was too blank, where my eye really didn't fall anywhere, I was like, okay, it's too plain, right? Something like this catches my eye, but it's a little right there. I might still be able to use this, I don't know. But if I go back and start adding more images, I think I'm gonna try all black and white and see what those look like, because I'm kind of curious with that now. So if I add them, I think it'll be its own unique series in black and white. And it won't be any of the same photographs that I already have, but it'll just be from that same day. Um, but images that maybe draw more attention in black and white, or maybe a sepia tone, something like that. I don't know. I can experiment with that. But see these little blue tabs I have, that reminds me that I looked at this and thought, okay, I might have something there. But for me, like the composition is a little off. So that's why they didn't end up in the original. I think it was 17 photographs ended up in the quarantine series. But it's like I tell, especially beginning photographers who want to, especially those who want to jump into fine art, is the camera that you use doesn't matter as much as what can you do with it. Like how creative can you be with the camera? What are your ideas? What are your concepts? And can you execute those concepts in a in a decent way? And then you just grow from there. But that's really where you start. I think if you, because a lot of people they go to B&H or they go to Amazon, they're buying all this camera equipment, and it's like they haven't really practiced honing their skill in terms of creativity. How creative can you be with your photograph ideas, your concepts, and how much practicing have you done with your composition? And so you can really like, and I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but I started with my phone, and not this phone in particular, but I started with my phone, and then I bought like a $80-$90 Samsung point and shoot camera. And and that was like in 2004, I want to say. And then once I realized that I liked the $80, $90 camera, um, in 2008, I bought a $500 camera, which was the Canon Rebel XT. I bought that one in '08, and that's when I started taking classes in photography. So you just start with whatever you have, and once you get the feel for composition and your work resonates with people in terms of like they react or they respond to it, then you can go and say, okay, I know that I'm good enough to, take this to the next level. And then you start upgrading your equipment, things like that. Because the camera that I use, I actually got it from showing my portfolio with the work I had already captured. um, so yeah, you just have to start from there. So yeah, I found an investor to look at my work, my concept, my ideas for the studio, etc. And and that's really how I got started with all this, like officially. I think there is something here. Um, it might be something there. This is too straight up and down with the composition. It's not. Um, it doesn't interest me enough. It's very like straight up and down. So I want it to be more interesting with the direction of the light. It's so. And that would be the other point too. Is like you're taking hundreds of photographs sometimes. When you're choosing what's going to make it into the series and what's going to be left out, go with the ones that as soon as you see it, boom, that one has to come. That one has to stay in the series, right? If you're on the fence with some of these, and you will be on the fence with some of them that are on the fence, some of them will make it into the series and some will be left out. But all of them that are just like really good, especially with the composition, definitely pull those first and add them to your inventory. And then the ones that are that you feel like it could be something, maybe not. You know, you just have to use your discretion on whether you're going to use them ultimately or leave it out. But when you are submitting work, I would say never submit work that you feel like is on the fence unless the curators specifically ask for that, because they will do that. They've done that to me before. Like I sent my favorites, right? My favorites. And then they'll go either to social media on Instagram or they'll go to the website and they'll say, we like this one, this one, which I didn't submit at all. And some of them would be photographs that were on the fence to me, but the curators like them, like they're favorites to them. So, like I say, always send your best to at least get them to notice your work, right? But if you send them work that's like on the fence, then there's a chance that you won't get selected to be in an exhibition or in a publication, something like that. So for sure, like always send your best, and then send your best because that'll lead them to want to see more of your work. Wow, this is very strange. Yeah. Yep, a lot of practicing. A lot of practicing. So, that's where it started. And as I said before, I use the Apple Pencil to write my signature on here. And I guess I could get a Wacom tablet. So if I'm working from the desktop, I can do the same thing. But I like doing the editing and whatnot with the Apple Pencil. But it's like, okay, abstract, where does your eye go? Even though you have this huge bright light, my eye always goes right here. You know, it always goes right there. And then part of me was thinking, like, is this too bright? But then I stuck with it. And there are some shapes around here. So it's basically a series of light, shadow, and then it's monochromatic with color. But what I'm really looking for is personality. It has to have some type of personality to it, and I guess all of them in a way they start telling a story. So now this first one is really the most close to reality, I would say, that you see. And then as the series continues, it's like reality continues to fade away to where you don't know, you really don't know what you're looking at. Um, but even here, I can tell what I was photographing. Um, but by the time you get to the end of the series, it's much more difficult for me to see what's going on. But yeah, this is also nice. Now, even though the lines here are straight, it's not everywhere. So they kind of go straight here and then they go diagonal here. And then like the shadow starts to intrude. So I don't know. It's like you're in a weird space. Um, where it's like you're kind of dreaming or you're trying to come out of a dream or you're trying to focus your eyes so that you can see what's actually there. So yeah, you definitely don't use autofocus because that'll mess up everything. Change your focus to manual and just go from there. Same thing. I have a sense of like, because here's the desk and then here's the object. But it's like, even if you put your camera on a 5 second timer, and I got balloons in here. You put your camera on a 5 second timer. Um, the first 2 seconds don't move the camera, and then the last 3 seconds until the shutter closes, you can move the camera. So that's how you have something that can be still, like the desk here is basically pretty still, but then you have this spinning motion here with the object in the foreground. It's kind of spinning like this. So you can have both in the same shot. Um, but I would say like keep it still, uh, vice versa, either or the first 2, 3 seconds, and then move it the last 2.5, 3 seconds until the shutter closes. So you can have some of that stillness there, because this right here is the window, that's the desk, and then the object is there, has that rotation to it. So I was just like, wow. I didn't know that I could do that with the camera. But yeah, it just depends on the shutter speed, and again how you're moving it. This number 5 is one of my favorites because it's doing the same thing where this part is very still. It's almost in focus, the edge of the desk. But then there's a bunch of motion going on. And then because I'm pointed directly at the window and the shutter speed is so long, it's bringing in all this light. But since I'm moving the camera at the same time, after you hold it still, then you move, or vice versa, you get the light going through here, the spillover effect going through here. So it's basically you're trying to shape the composition. I won't say randomly, but trying to shape the composition where you get something more interesting, right? Because if it comes out too bland on a particular shot, then you can try more motion. You just have to play with it and see what happens. But yeah, it's that that line between dream and reality, you know. And I think for quarantine, it kind of goes beyond the dreaming part of it. It was like, are our lives over, and we're never gonna go back to normal, you know. So it was that in between part of it. This is also great. Yeah, it looks like the camera is definitely on the at an angle. Here's the window. Here's the object. And I couldn't even tell you, to be honest. There's a little bit of rotation, but the window is so still that it's not a lot. It's just enough to get the movement here. Like I couldn't repeat this if I tried. So yeah, you just capture that moment. And if the light coming through the window shifts, it also has an effect on what you capture. But yeah, I guess I had um, I really didn't want the light coming straight up and down in the composition. Let me move my camera a little bit out the way. Um, yeah, I really liked the lighting where it was more diagonal, had more movement to it. And I guess also in a way the window symbolizes trying to get out of where you are. Um, like you feel like a sense of it is like feeling trapped. And then there's this open window, all this light coming through, and you're trying to get out of this dark shadows and go into, I guess, freedom, I could say. This one is in between. Um, for sure. This one's in between. I think also I wanted to create texture with the object, because if you just have an open window, right? A lot of light, but then in the room, you don't have any studio lighting. You don't have any extra light there, so it's gonna fall in the shadow really quickly. Um, Without the texture, it's gonna be just white and black, right? So you put something there that adds texture, you know. And the thing that I guess I looked at with photography that's different from painting is painting, you can have texture, like you can stack layers of paint on the canvas, you know, to get it to rise above the camera canvas, have thickness to it. With the photography, more times than not, unless you print it on canvas, and even then it's going to be flat, right? It's not really going to come out um, from the paper. So with this, I was thinking, okay, how am I going to create some feel, some texture, something tangible with the photograph? And that's including the object, to where all these lines coming from it, it just creates texture. And then if you have the camera capturing the image in a very unorthodox way, and so now the light and the shadow are blending quite a bit, to where it's not just light here, shadow here. Um, it's more intertwined, and it also creates texture. So I think that adds more interest for sure. All right, so this is my favorite. I don't know. As far as I can tell, this is the window up here. Here's his desk, but it's, of course, the camera's at an angle. And then I'm moving the camera so much and the shutter speed is so slow that everything down here is faded. Um, and since the windows is only source, then all of a sudden this falls into, you know, a lot of heavy shadow, which, I mean, I like it. This one's my favorite. Um, yeah, this one's my favorite. And I mean, I can't even tell you, like, where's the object. I'm thinking it's here, but I'm not quite sure. All right, so this one is completely different, to where you fall completely out of reality over here, and then all of a sudden you get this I don't know if vibration is the right word, but this pattern where you can see it, the object repeats. And so I don't know if I went straight forward and pulled back, or I moved the camera forward, but this is definitely more on a straight line. But I just like how the part that's more reality and then the part that's more just in light, they kind of blend together into the middle part of it. So that part I like. Now this one pretty much breaks my normal rule that I would have with the lines being just straight up and down, but I do like this one. I do, because I think the light over here is really good, really bold, there's enough detail coming through here. And then there's sliver of whatever this is. I think that's the object. But again, I couldn't tell you how I captured this one in terms of motion. Obviously, this is a long shutter speed for this. But positioning, I really can't tell. Because I think this is the edge of it right here. And then it just falls in the light. I guess that's the other thing where when you're looking at your series overall, the style needs to be consistent, but they can't, like, everything can't be the same, right? It can't look like you have duplicates of photographs in the series. So you have to pick certain characteristics that are the same or similar. But in terms of composition, that's a free for all, like, because they're all going to have the light, the heavy shadow, and then the monochromatic color. But the composition needs to be unique for each one. And so whenever I found a composition that worked, and lighting, shadow, everything worked, and I was like, okay, I'm going to add this in there. Now, this one is number 11, quarantine number 11. It might be the favorite for other people who have seen the series. They picked this one out. I was on the fence with this one. I was on the fence with this one, but so many people have picked it out that I warmed up to it a lot more. And whenever I'm submitting my work or I have some of my profiles branched out on other platforms, I include this one because, again, so many people have commented on it. So because I was thinking I was on the fence with this because I can see what it is, right? But then I had to think everyone else doesn't know what they're looking at, right? So they're just looking at, oh, I like the composition, because you have a whole bunch of light, which I felt like it's on the edge of being overpowering, but I don't know, it fits. And also, rarely do I want to have, which I do sometimes, but rarely do I want to have the subject like dead center in the photograph. Yeah, I try not to do that. I try to have it on, like, using the rule of thirds, having the main subject or where your attention is supposed to go, having that on one of the thirds of the photograph. But this one pretty much breaks that rule, even though I have this line is sitting on that third. So that's not a terrible spot, but it's so close to this that's almost the dead center. I was wondering about it. I was wondering. Okay, so for me personally, this is my second favorite one, number 12, because it looks like I started thinking of The Lion King. You know, The Lion King, where Simba's born, Rafiki's taking him up to the edge of the mountain, and he holds him up to everybody, right? And then you have the sunlight coming down, the rays of light coming down on them. That's what I thought about when I saw this photograph. The window, I think the object is there, but it's because of the angle of the camera is diagonal. Um, yeah, this is one of my favorites. And then you have it just the shadow or the light fall off is so stark. Um, it's interesting, you know. It's very interesting to me. In rain, it also reminds me of rain, even though it's not like straight up and down, but it just reminds me of rain. Okay, that was. Is that it? It's just 12. I thought it was 17, but I'm thinking of the other, the water series. That's the one that has 16 or 17 in it. So yeah, that's that's where this one is. Or that's really my thoughts behind it. Um, so once you pick your images, what you want in the series, and I'll move my camera out of the way. What you want to do is look over everything just to make sure that you don't have images that are ridiculously close together as far as composition. Like you want everything to have its own unique feel to it, even though it still fits in with everything else. And to me, I think number 8 is the most unique. Um, and I think this one as well. Very, very unique. Yeah. So that is quarantine. I hope you guys got something out of me going over the backstory of this one and my thoughts behind each image. I think you really have to pay attention to how people respond to your work. Um, what they respond to positively or negatively or somewhere in between. Look at what they respond to help you kind of find where your style is or where it should be or what will work um, for audiences. Because I feel like even if you like the work personally, but no one else does, that doesn't help your gallery grow. Um, so yeah, you have to find that sweet spot of you love the work, but a lot of other people still also like the work. So that's it just takes time. It takes practice. Uh and you just keep trying different things. Depending on what I photograph, the audiences who like the work can be completely in different spaces, different interests. And that's why I've worked really hard to organize my work, either creating a series or a collection. And so that particular audience in that niche can go directly there. It also helps with keywords if they're looking for abstracts or if they're looking for landscapes, or some people are looking for automobiles. The keywords are there, and then they can all go to that one thing. And I guess I'll leave off with that for the website. I've tried to make that as easy as possible. So if they come to the site and they just are looking for abstract, then there's the keyword, and there's 29 results. So everything that I've labeled as abstract will show up. And then I will say, these three from Stasis, I'm on the fence with that if they're abstract. This one I might pull. Maybe yellow as well. Because typically I'm thinking abstract, you can't tell what you're looking at. So yeah, especially these two. This one's a perfect example of abstract. And this one I took, quarantine was I captured that one in 2020. So this is Pierce. Pierce was 3 years before. And I was at a swimming pool. It was a community pool. And I noticed that at nighttime they have the lights around it in the swimming pool. And so sun went down. I went out there and I captured quite a few photographs. They didn't work very well. My idea didn't work as well as I was hoping, so I only came out with one that looked composition, lighting, color. It came out pretty well, but I only have that one. All right. So for the site, as usual, I still have more work to do. And again, if you see something that you like, because I have been getting emails about purchasing the work, you would go up here to product selection. There's a little shopping cart next to that icon, shopping cart icon. And you click on that, and you'll have a list of products that the work is available on. So they're all there. Now, as far as the other platforms I'm working on, and I have about 25 to 30 pieces on different platforms. I am featuring the Ultra HD photo print because I feel like my work would look pretty good on that paper. But yeah, you would come to the site. There's your sizes here in inches and centimeters, depending on what you're looking for. And it's a preview window there. You can also add a border to it, especially if you're going to frame it. You can add a border to it. And like I've mentioned before, I also added some of the various currencies down here, depending on what country you're in. The currencies is down there, but the main one's going to be from the US. So there's that. And this option is in all the products, like whichever one that you pick. I guess my other one that I really like, but because the material is more expensive, is the photo print under matte acrylic glass. You'll get a description of the product here, and same deal. So if you go 30 by 45, there's a preview so that you'll get an idea of the size and how large it will be in comparison with your typical sofa. And this is going to be on Fuji Crystal Archive, which is also a good paper. And the various currencies down here. So you would add that to cart there. And that's pretty much it. And change product if you want to go back. And there's a bunch more. Now, as far as the acrylic block, I'm not sure how people are going to react to it, but I went ahead and added it there. I think what I'm going to try to do in December, probably, if not December, it's going to be in January, is there are 2 types of canvas products available from the lab. I have to create a lot of product profiles for it. But I do want to add that to, if nothing else, everything that's under a series, I want to have a canvas option. So it'll be just a canvas by itself, and you would have to stretch it yourself with the wood frame, or you would be able to order it with the frame included. So I would like to have that available for the work. So anything that's a series, I would like to have a canvas option for it. So it goes all the way down to, I believe, Newport Beach is the last one. And I have been very slowly but surely adding more work on here, like stuff like individuality, swan, these prints here, but these are very small prints, because back then, I think it was 2008, I didn't know how to shoot or capture photographs in RAW. And so I put the camera on auto, and the auto feature only has prints out at, I think it's 8x12. Yeah, 8x12. And so these are coming soon. I have to add the profiles to them as well. But I think they're decent. They're decent. They're not going to be expensive at all. And so these are for those of you who have contacted me and said that a lot of my pieces are out of your price range or you're out of your budget. So I'm looking over a lot of photos, a lot of folders of photography, and finding some of them that people still like, but I wouldn't exactly submit them to galleries because they're too dated to me. But again, it's like people see them for the first time and they'll say, oh, I love this one. Right? Or they'll be like, this is my favorite. And I'm like, well, do I want to add that to the website or not? And so, yeah, I'm finally going back, and some of the ones that were pointed out to me as people's favorites, I'm thinking that'll be a really good way to add some affordable prints to the website. So all of those are coming soon. Now, new work from 2024. I'll get back to you guys on that one if I actually complete it within the next 2 months before the year is out. But I definitely have an idea, 2 or 3 concepts that I want to test out and see if they work. I think they're going to work in my mind. But I don't know. It's going to be, a lot of these series are like trial and error. And I have to think, okay, the lighting, the shadow, the composition, it seems like up here that it's going to work. But ultimately, it's like I don't know until I actually do all the photographing and I get to the editing part of it, and can I edit it in a way that it doesn't look bad, um that looks interesting. So I have some unorthodox ideas that I don't know if it's going to work, but I've been doing this for so long that I want to try something different. Um, just a more of a unique approach, and also looking over all the work that I have on the site. I want to do something different. Um, so yeah, definitely something that I haven't tried before. So I'll see how that goes. But thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to continue to gather inspiration from the interior design um, showcases that I share in shorts and YouTube shorts and on TikTok. So that also inspires me for any ideas that come to mind. I think the biggest thing is my work has to be more um, contemporary and more up to date. And so I think that I'm going in that direction. But for colors, I think I'm gonna have to go more neutral with the colors. And I think my approach is gonna have to be more minimalistic. But the two ideas I have in mind right now are not gonna do that. So I'm gonna get these two out of my system to see if they work. And then going into 2025, I think the work is definitely going to be more minimalistic in its approach to it. So then when I submit my work to interior design agencies, the work actually fits into their current inventory, their portfolio. So that's where I'm at. um, that's where I'm at. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.